So, Madam Web is here, and of course I had to go see it because it's already legendarily bad without anybody having seen it yet. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to give this movie the benefit of the doubt because I watched it, and at the very least, it's a different kind of trash. And what I mean by that is there was no giant blue light in the sky at the end of the movie. There was no legions of faceless, non-human bad guys for our heroes to beat up in slow motion while some 70s rock song played. At least it was a little different, it's a self-contained, cute little story. And to be honest, the more I think about it, maybe it was so bad that it was good. I mean, is this like Cats level bad? It's an interesting thought. At the same time, maybe it's not Cats level bad. Maybe it's just a crappy movie. And I really don't even know where to begin. What was the thought process behind making this? I guess maybe it's really Sony just trying to maintain its IP. It's like a prequel origin story, except it's a prequel story for John Carter Goes to Mars before John Carter was even made. Yes, it is Spider-Man, but who outside of the comic books even knows and cares about these people? I mean, what were they thinking when they made this? So we open in the 70s, and we have the mother of our would-be heroine heavily pregnant in the South American jungle, and man, she really shouldn't be there, but that does remind me that this does tie into a kind of a sappy and heart-wrenching moment later in the film. But let's put that aside. She's looking for a legendary red spider made out of incredibly ugly and bad CGI, and she finds it, and behind her is the most obvious bad guy in the world, who subsequently shoots her and everybody in the camp, and she is saved by what looks like a white jungle native with spider powers. Later on, it turns out he's not, but at the time I was watching it, I figured the woke Twitter mob was going to have a field day with the white savior in the jungle theory. And she gives birth to a magical spider woman baby. We flash forward to what I would say is present day, but it's actually the early 2000s, and our movie begins. The basic plot is that Dakota Johnson, the woman who no one imagined being a superhero ever, is a lackluster paramedic who, the movie's kind of like a combination of adventures in babysitting and a bad superhero movie. So what do I think of Dakota Johnson as Madam Web? Well, there's no doubt she's an attractive woman, and that eye candy does help move the movie along as she's on the screen, but let's be honest here, her introduction is not so great. She's driving an ambulance in what appears to be slow motion, and her opening line is, "This guy's not going room temp on my watch," but it's delivered with all the charisma of someone waiting in a DMV line, and it really doesn't get much better from there. To be honest, her greatest superpower in the movie seems to be stealing cars and hitting people with them. That's actually mainly how they deal with the bad guys, since we're dealing with a troop of people who don't have superpowers. But I'll give it to them, once again, at least it's a creative way to deal with their problems. Now, Madam Web's actual superpower, as it turns out, is being able to see like 30 seconds into the future. And this does lead to some interesting scenes. It's a bit of a reverse Unbreakable, where by touching someone, you see what they've done. She sees what's going to happen. And like I said, initially it's kind of enthralling to see these horrific accidents, and then she flashes back into her mind, and there's a nice little natural progression where these accidents happen in real life, and she slowly begins to realize, okay, maybe she's not crazy, maybe she does have control over it. Though it does remind me of that specific scene, and it bothers me. I wish there was a little more treatment to this script, and God knows it needs quite a lot of it. But for example, she's in her apartment, right? She's already had these visions, these futures that have happened. She's making something in the microwave, it beeps, and then 10 seconds later, a pigeon hits her window and dies. And then she goes back to the present moment, her microwave beeps again, and in a moment of inspiration, she opens the window and the pigeon flies through and it's alive. And what bothered me was that she does some stupid line where she says, okay, this isn't real, this isn't going to change anything, this doesn't matter. And it was so unnecessary. It was so much better to simply show and not tell her thought process by her opening this window. And that was a nice little moment. Besides that line of dialogue, it was a well-developed moment in terms of reaching her powers and her potential. Oh yeah, I forgot. Her other superpower is to walk into the deep Amazonian jungle with like a backpack. This was so stupid. I swear to God. She was in New York. She decides to follow in her mom's footsteps. We show a little vignette of a plane, and God knows this movie moves quick. But she basically gets on a plane, gets off with the same clothes she's wearing. She's got a little day backpack and a water bottle, and somehow she's discovered the secret layer of the spider people supposedly deep in the jungle, which, I mean, from the way she's dressed and the way she's gotten there, I guess it's like maybe a 5-minute walk off to the side of the road. But, you know, you gotta move the plot along. Okay, we need to talk about the bad guy, Ezekiel. Holy shit, does this guy... I mean, really, once again, this is kind of the so bad it's good. This guy's performance is so horrendous. It's so badly written. It's so stupid. It's amazing. I don't know what rock they found this guy under. I looked him up. His name is Tahar Rahim. He's been in a couple of movies. Nobody remembers him from anything. And Jesus, where to even start? Okay, once again, in the opening scene, he's so obviously the bad guy. It's almost comical, okay? And after he kills everybody, his excuse for doing so and obtaining the magical spider powers is because his family starved to death, whatever that means. He doesn't unfortunately use this power to feed starving families like his family himself had starved to death. No, instead he decides he's going to move to New York and get a really nice apartment. And this guy's performance, it's like Benny. You know Benny from The Mummy, right? It's like if you took Benny but removed all of the charisma and presence and comedic aspects and just wrote him as the most stereotypical bad guy in the world. I might also mention this guy has one line of dialogue the entire movie. So his whole motivation is that he keeps dreaming of these 3 inexplicably hot teenage girls murdering him. And he says it at least 17 times that he has to kill them before they kill him. And he once kind of vaguely references that he needs to do this because they will undo all that he has built. And it's never explained or explored exactly what it is he's built. I guess they're talking about his apartment and the really nice terrarium that he has set up for his pet red spider. And I mean, I'll give him this. It's a really nice terrarium. I mean, that sucker is like a $30,000 installation. So I guess that's worth killing for. There's also the ridiculous concept that he uses NSA technology to somehow project the face of the girls he's been having visions of, and this is somehow going to help him discover them in New York that he conveniently lives in the same city where they all live. As mentioned earlier, we also have our magical trio of multi-ethnic teenage girls who are inexplicably beautiful and all have feisty personalities. There's not really so much to say here, to be honest with you. When I think about them, I can't really identify one from the other in terms of who they are. I guess, kind of, okay, it's like the shy girl who comes out of her shell and the kind of abrasive, mean girl who gets calmer, and then there's the science-minded girl who gets a little more realistic. So really their journey in the movie is just becoming pretty much the same person as each other, and you can no longer tell them apart. It's very sad. It also does remind me of probably one of the larger set pieces and scenes in the movie is after they've been hunted by our evil 4-foot-tall bad guy, Madam Web takes them all into the woods and she says, "You are all in danger of being killed. Don't do anything." So they decide to walk down the road to this diner because they're hungry. And even though they're literally on the run for their life, they decide to dance on the diner table around some teenage boys while Britney Spears' song Toxic plays. I mean, you can't write this stuff. Outside of the fact, the whole scene just bothered me in the sense that, like, seriously, what teenagers are eating at diners anymore? I mean, they're all at home either on Instagram or playing video games. Teenagers don't go to diners. Are you kidding me? Anyway, yeah, that's stupid. And last but not least, rounding out the cast, we have Adam Scott, who's been in a lot of stuff, though most recently, to my mind, Severance. He's actually by far the best part of this movie. He provides a strong, reassuring presence that is kind of the rock the first half of this movie relies on. Certainly nothing bad to say about him here. I suppose it speaks a lot that a good performance won't necessarily ruin your career, even if you are in potentially the worst movie of the decade, though once again, I still don't think this beats Cats. What else is there to say, really? Once again, I give this movie credit. There's no endless army of faceless bad guys. There is no blue light. The entire movie is basically an escape. It's an escape from this evil 4-foot man. And the car chases, wow. I don't know if they were intentionally filming in slow motion or what, but once again, her greatest superpower really is to steal ambulances and taxis and hit the guy with them. Oh, and that does remind me, the Pepsi placement in this movie, I read there's a barbecue scene early on where she's literally just holding this can of Pepsi like an inch from your face on the screen. And I said, baby, that is not really the most subtle ad placement in the world. Hi, Pepsi Man big bottle cap present. Nevertheless, we get to the end, and they literally, the final scene is they are fighting on a giant vintage Pepsi sign. I mean, Pepsi is in your face for 10 straight minutes in slow motion with fireworks going off around it. Oh, baby. But yeah, Adam Webb, should you see it? Why not? I didn't really start falling asleep till the later half of the movie, and I give it this, there's some nice setups and payoffs. There's some of the more obvious ones, like a scene where she teaches them all CPR, which is a little in your face. But, I actually felt a slight stirring of emotions somewhere in the depth of my broken soul when she finds out the motivations behind why her mother was in South America. It was actually a nice moment. So yeah, give it that little 5-minute piece of credit. But otherwise, oh man, should you see? I think you need to see this movie just so you can tell people you saw it. You know what I'm saying? So I'll give it that stamp of approval. But otherwise, oh man, Madam Webb. Well, it's been fun. Nice talking to you. Thanks for coming. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.